I just wanted to say a few words about the project and about the future, and in case anyone wants to continue this project or do anything with these seeds, I just want to tell you what my ideas would be if I were to continue it, which I'm not going to. And the reason is that I don't really eat onions or leeks anymore and haven't for a while, like a couple of years, so it doesn't really make sense for me to be growing them. They're like a trigger for my autoimmune problems. Hopefully in the future I'll be able to, and I'll either get back to this project or I'll just at least grow them again. But I'm going to tell you what I would do if I were to continue this project. So a lot of plant breeding is basically inbreeding. You're taking populations of plants and you keep breeding back the traits that you want, but in doing so, you're narrowing down the gene pool. Now we all know it can happen with inbreeding. Populations get weak or they have mutations, and it's just bad news all around. So what I've been doing with this population, when I got these leeks, I just didn't think that they were really up to par. Like there was a lot of variation in the population and some traits that I didn't want. So I wanted to refine that. But by doing that, I've been inbreeding this population for a long time, and I've also been doing it in small numbers. So I've been told that with alliums, which leeks are, alliums are, garlic, onions, leeks, that you should have a large population when you're working with the seed and when you're breeding. So a breeder or someone that's saving seed commercially might be saving seed from like 50 or 100 at a time, and I'm saving it from like 6. I've probably done as little as 6. Usually I do 8, and this time I did 12, so 8 or 10 average probably. So as a result of that, and it just happens anyway, the gene pool gets narrowed down. So what I would do is I would do one of two things. I would either get Bulgarian Giant seed from other sources, grow them out, confirm that they're the same variety, pick the best ones of those, and mix those back in. Now that's could potentially, if you get bad seed, it could cause you to take a step backward. If you get really good seed, maybe it would cause you to take a step forward, a quick step forward in refining the variety and getting the average specimen more in line with at least what my goals were. And those again are large diameter and length at the same time, with tightly clasping leaves near the top, and so it self-blanches, and also straight and cold hardy enough to survive in this environment, which is rarely we get temperatures below 20, but I say that hesitantly because it's not the same temperature, say, up here as it is on the ground. So it just depends on where you're measuring, and cold isn't just cold. It depends on whether the air is moving, how long it stays at a certain temperature, and how quickly things thaw out and all that stuff. But anyway, that's what I've been reading for. So that would hopefully, get some reinvigoration into that line. What I would probably actually do at this point, now that I've refined Bulgarian Giant a little bit, I would probably go and do a bunch of research, get as many promising sounding tall leek varieties as I could, grow all those out in trials, pick one or more of those, preferably maybe a couple, pick the best specimens of those and breed those back together by simply planting the leeks alternately in a block. So I would have, Bulgarian Giant, other variety, Bulgarian Giant, just at least mix them really close so the bees are constantly moving from one variety to another. And then just let them cross, start growing that batch of seed out, then start selecting for a new variety or a new, strain at least. Now I've been told about a few leeks that sound promising. A guy from Bulgaria actually sent me leek seeds, and I was kind of thinking, well, maybe those will be Bulgarian Giant. He said they're the tall type, and I can just, get some new genes into my population that way. But when I grew out the seedlings, they actually looked different. They looked a little bit lighter in color and a little bit smaller. So I don't think that they're the same. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, is getting something like that and mixing it back in. Unfortunately, I never grew those seedlings out, so I don't know what they're like. And on a blog post I did on leeks once, a guy commented, and I think he was from Maine, but if not, he was from the Northeast somewhere. And he said he had a variety that was tall like that, but would survive winters wherever he is. I think it was Maine. So that sounds really intriguing because you could get some hardiness back into the gene pool. If I can come up with the name of that, I will put it on the screen, but you get the idea. The world is smaller now. When I first moved here, the internet was very small. Just with a quick search, we can find so much faster. And the world has shrunk so much that more varieties are coming out of the woodwork, more varieties from all different countries and all these great traditional heirlooms that we didn't have access to before. So when I did my trials trying to find the best tall leek, this is the one I settled on. It was by far the best one, but there are other good ones, the ones that may suit your climate, or they could be, again, mixed together to breed new superior leeks. One last quick word about seed saving. So my mindset is always geared kind of towards self-reliance and retaking responsibility for ourselves, and our food supply is just an enormous part of that. It's getting, our food supply is getting further and further removed from our control and grown on a larger and larger scale. And we all know what power corrupts, right? Power corrupts. So you put this immense power of having control over people's food in the hands of a few people, it's just bad news, period. It's just bad news. It doesn't matter who has the power right now and how benevolent they are, you just don't do that. It's like saying that you're going to put a dictator in office because he's the guy that believes in what you believe in. Well, the next guy may not, That's the gist of democracy, is you maintain a system where the people who are affected, the mass of the populace, has some control. Our food supply is getting less and less like that. So with that in mind, you could see growing food and seed saving in stages. So let's say that the first stage is you just make a move and you plant something to eat. Maybe you go to the drugstore and pick up a tomato plant and you put it in a pot and you buy some potting soil and you water it and you harvest some tomatoes. The next step would be to expand and grow more food. After that, you'd be thinking, well, maybe start using fertilizers that you create yourself. Compost your kitchen waste. Maybe go pick up manure from someone and use that instead of just buying in all the Miracle-Gro and stuff that you get. The next thing would be thinking about planting open pollinated varieties, because open pollinated varieties are easier to save seed from than hybrid varieties. What we call hybrids when we buy seed is special crosses that don't the traits of those seeds and the plants that grow from them don't necessarily hold over. That sometimes they do, but they don't necessarily hold over if you save the seed and regrow it. Now, open pollinated varieties, if they're grown right, mean that you can grow it, you can save the seed, and then you can grow it. So then the next step would be to do that. Maybe start buying heirlooms and open pollinated and then say, like, I want to save that. Just start. Start saving a few tomato seeds or a few lettuce seeds or something easy like that. And then kind of the final stage up here to me is to start doing intentional breeding, even more so than what I'm doing, because I'm kind of selecting. I have a population I'm working with. I just throw it, let it grow, and I just pick out the best ones. So I would call that more like selection. But in breeding, you're just going to be a little more intentional about it, and that can go to all kinds of degrees. It can be really simple, simply picking two varieties and intentionally making a crossing or letting them cross, or it could be as fancy as thinking ahead of time over multiple generations. So think of it that way in tiers. It's baby steps, and we can't do it all ourselves, but the more of us that save seed and breed new varieties, the more control we start to take back of our food supply. There are literally people out there trying to control our ability to grow the varieties that we want to grow. It's not up to anybody else except us as gardeners to start taking those steps. And again, it's baby steps. You don't need to go crazy the first year or the first month or the first decade even, just start saving a few seeds and start thinking in that direction. And just, a lot of it's just about adopting the mindset, seeing the problem and having an intention and holding that intention and starting to move forward with that, because that's going to make you start thinking in that direction. And that's the first thing toward action is thought. Realize there's a problem. Think about doing something about it. Change your attitude. Have a concept of what the future might look like, and then start that direction. Okay, thank you for watching this whole project and for buying my seed and all of that stuff, and enjoy those Bulgarian Giant Leeks because they are awesome.